Hi, folks. A very warm welcome to season 5, episode 4 of the Lemons and Pineapples podcast with me, Emma O'Brien. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you about conscious femininity and how this is what the world really needs more of right now, and how you can tap it, how you can understand what this phrase means and really live in your conscious femininity, which is really what we need to balance the absolute, for want of a better word, shitfuckery that is happening everywhere in the world right now. It's interesting to me. This is a phrase I stumbled across in one of Sharon Blackie's books. It's a fantastic book called If Women Rose Rooted. And she talks about the concept of conscious femininity, which is a phrase that was coined by a Jungian psychologist called Marion Woodman. So I can't take credit for it and I won't try to. But it's quite interesting. I realized it's how I've been living, it's what I've been doing, and it's the journey I've been taking my coaching clients on without really having a particular name for it. So you'll see. I call myself a conscious femininity coach. This is the journey I take people on, and it's such an important journey to be on. Marion Woodman, when she talked about this, one of the key phrases she used, because it's what she noticed that was happening for women, we're going back 40 odd, 50 years when she was doing this work for the first time, is that women were living from the neck up. And to understand conscious femininity, we need to understand unconscious femininity, which is really it's living on autopilot. It's being very disconnected from your body, hence the phrase living from the neck up. It is seeking external validation and outsourcing your self-worth. And it is over adapting to survival in a very masculine structured world, which I think as women we're starting to kick against more and more and more now. But we live in a world that is dominated by the patriarchy. And I think it's really important to say here that whilst the patriarchy we can think of as being men, the patriarchy is a societal system. It involves men and women. We have to be very mindful, I think, especially talking about femininity, to not man bash. And I'm very conscious to not man bash. There's a huge number of men in the world who need a swift kick in the dick. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But there's also equal number, if not more, men who are respectful, who are seeking to live in harmony too, who are connecting with themselves and who also want balance and to be in right relationship and to have relational harmony with not just their partners but family and the world in general. So we must be careful about generalizing about things. Unfortunately, we are seeing a world that is dominated by the unconscious masculine, really, at the moment. Let's not name any names, but we all know who we're talking about. So conscious femininity, when we start to live in it, and I'm going to share some ways that you can actually really start to tap into this as well. A consciously feminine woman is awake to what is happening. She knows how to listen to what is happening in her internal world, in her body, to listen to emotions, to listen to energy levels, to listen to what's happening cyclically for her as well as the greater world as a whole. I think one of the really nice things to add into this as well is it's living in more in harmony with our surroundings, which for me kind of pulls in the beautiful shamanic philosophy that I very much live and teach as well, of being in right relationship with not just each other, but with nature, with the birds, with the animals, with the space around us. Because what we see with a world that is dominated by the patriarchy is exploitation of not just people, but of resources, of the natural world, with an absolute lack of respect for the consequences of what we're happening when we just take, and we're greedy all the time, which is the patriarchy is. I believe it's in its death throes, which is why it's kicking so hard at the moment. But when we can start to not fight with it, but set a different example and live a different way, we become less affected by it and we can blaze our own trails, which is, I'm totally here for all of that. And conscious femininity is being in right relationship with the masculine. So that falls into the masculine within you. We each have masculine and feminine energies within us. And when they're out of balance, we have a problem. And we live in a world with masculine and feminine energies, and the two also need to be in balance internally and externally. So, if we're talking about what conscious femininity looks like in everyday life, it is about living from your body, not just your head. I know so many people, and I've also, this is a line I've uttered myself, is we hear our gut intuition, but we don't trust it. We override it because we listen too much to our heads when actually we need to be listening to our internal signals. Our bodies will have a yes or a no to something way before our minds kick in. But because we're so conditioned to live intellectually and we've been so conditioned out of feeling into things, because it's the in a masculine world we don't feel things, we decide things, we think about things. And it's about learning to do that again. It's about learning to listen to yourself first and foremost, because you are the greatest source of your own wisdom when you know how to listen to it. It's about noticing your energy. We are cyclical beings in the same way that we live in a world that is cyclical. If we look at nature, it isn't linear. It isn't the same all the time. It's constantly in flux. It's constantly changing. We'll have winter where all the trees drop their leaves. Everything goes quiet. You won't see very many birds. Everything just goes dormant for a while before it starts to gear up again in spring, and in summer it's in full bloom. We are no different, but we've forgotten that. And it's learning to listen to how your energy shifts on a day-to-day basis, listening into how you feel, and not pushing yourself when it's a low energy day. And I think for women, this is especially important. We've lost the ability to listen to our own monthly rhythms of our hormonal shifts and changes and how they affect how we feel, how they affect our energy levels, how they affect our emotional state. And when you can start to listen to that, you have a bit of a better understanding of yourself, and you can live more compassionately with yourself as well. As somebody who is 45 and smack bang in perimenopause, I am starting to track what's happening in my cycle. I've started to get, for the first time in my life, horrible hormonal headaches. I'm looking at when do they come, because I'm going to have to start scheduling my work around that and not pushing through it. It's no good. And I know it's not always possible to do that, but if you have a bit of an awareness of what's likely to be happening and when you are going to be have the most energy and when you feel the most fatigued, you can start to schedule what's happening around your cycles. You are allowed to start to listen to your cycles and schedule your work around that, rather than trying to take a painkiller or 20 coffees to override your body's natural signals. We are part of nature. We're cyclical beings, and we need to wake up to that and start to work with our own cycles again. And it's stopping forcing yourself to function at the same pace all the time. You will find, and I've got most of my coaching clients are in their 40s plus. And this is a conversation that's come up again and again and again of, I just can't work flat taps like I used to be able to. I know I can't. And it's about just managing your workload according to your energy levels and not expecting yourself to be a machine, because you're not. It's feeling emotions, noticing them, listening to them. What is this trying to tell me? But not being ruled by them. Our emotions are wonderful messengers about what's happening and how we're responding to the world around us, and how we're responding to our internal world. If you are a woman listening to this, you will know that at varying times in your cycles, there will be a day or two where you feel very irritable, you feel very grouchy. If you have PMS symptoms, they're really unpleasant. But when you can have the awareness of, oh, I'm really irritable today because I've got PMS. So I can make the people around me aware that I might be a little bit irritable today. Please give me a bit of leeway. It's not you. I'm dealing with hormonal fluctuations here. The minute you say that to the people around you, you're going to improve the relationship with people. You can, it's having that self-awareness to learn to listen. And often when we can listen to ourselves and realize, it's that time in my cycle, that's why I want to bite everyone's head off today. I'm going to choose to just be calm and create a bit of space. And I'm going to choose not to be ruled by that urge to bite everyone's head off because I know why it's happening. When we learn to listen, we have this wonderful plethora of information and we can live differently with that information. It is about having boundaries and being able to set and maintain boundaries. You don't have to be hard about it. You don't have to be unkind about it. You don't have to shut people off. It's learning to communicate effectively, communicate your truth effectively, and maintain it with respect for other people as well. I love this phrase, that we're told no is a complete sentence. When was the last time when someone asked you to do something, you just turned around and went, no, it it's not really doable. So we have to have a look at how can I maintain my own boundaries whilst being kind and respectful of the other people around me and living in right relationship with other people. And it comes from being mature and listening and being able to communicate effectively. And I think the most important thing about conscious femininity is choosing honesty over harmony at any cost. As women, we've been societally conditioned to put ourselves last, to people please, don't cause a fuss, don't be too bossy, don't be difficult. And society loves to label women who assert themselves and who set boundaries and maintain them and put their needs first as bitches. You're not a bitch for putting your needs first. You're not a bitch for choosing not to be a doormat. You're not a bitch for putting your needs ahead of other people's needs, because why should your needs go last? Why should they? I know it's how we've been conditioned, but it's not okay. It's not okay for your needs to be last. So we're talking here about learning how to rest before you burn out. We're learning how to say no kindly, but without justifying yourself with a gigantic essay and excuses. And you don't have to justify why you don't or won't or can't do something. You don't. It is not over functioning. I've talked in a few podcast episodes, I'll link them in the show notes, about over functioning. And this is a role that women often play, especially at home. We often, and especially women who are in relationship with men, we often end up fixing everything and we end up doing everything. So you enable someone to underfunction. And instead of giving the person room to step up, because maybe they don't do it the way we want to, or they just don't do it, we step in and we do everything. It's a hard and fast way to just completely burn out on a domestic front. So sometimes you have to be able to tolerate the discomfort of letting someone figure something out themselves and letting it be messy, letting somebody else be unhappy because you haven't managed everything for them when they're a grown up and they're quite capable of doing it. It's allowing some discomfort without jumping in to fix. And it is a game changer when you can notice if and where you overfunction and stop it. It's a really, really nasty habit that many women have fallen into. And it takes a bit of course correcting and a bit of learning to sit with uncomfortable big feelings to stop the pattern. And a consciously feminine woman will receive support. You don't have to do it all on your own. And it's about asking for what you need. So really, it's being in your body, listening to your emotions, understanding what your truth is, understanding your own needs, and being able to voice and communicate and uphold them calmly, kindly, and firmly, sometimes if we need to. Now, conscious femininity is quite different from conventional feminism. And I think a lot of the feminism that's out in the world has come from really a reaction to oppression. We needed it. It's been essential. But for me, and I speak from my own perspective here, is conventional feminism can have a very hard edge to it. And it's almost like a fuck you to men and a fuck you to the masculine. And that's not what conscious femininity is. Like I've said, some men need a kick in the dick, right? But we don't need women to be tough. And we don't need women to be like men. We don't need women to compete with men. And we don't need to be a woman in the world who's like, I don't need anybody. Because it's a route to burnout. It's a very hard edge. That's not being in harmony with your femininity at all. So we all have a masculine and feminine energetic vibe, let's call it, within ourselves. And the goal is to have them in balance. So I think a lot of femininity is you're almost too much in your masculine because it's got a lot of fight energy and a lot of big angry energy to it. And then we have a lot of this kind of ethereal, sacred femininity, goddess, priestess vibe. No shade on it, not my vibe, but it goes too far the other way. We're going to sit around and wait to receive, and we're all going to be soft and float round. Without the feminine, masculine energy is aggressive and it is plowing through. It's greedy, it's hard, it doesn't think of the consequences. It just takes and grabs and smashes through things. Without masculine energy, femininity ends up with lots of feeling and introspection and waiting and fawning and I'm going to be nice and soft and nothing happens. Nothing gets done. So what we need is this balance of masculine and feminine energies together. Feminine energy at its core, when it's healthy, is intuition. It's feeling into, it's listening, it is compassionate, it is empathetic, but it isn't weak. It's not nothing weak about any of those things. It's all of those things. And then when we have healthy masculine, it is about setting boundaries. It's about doing. It's about strategy. It's about taking action. And you can intuit and create and feel into the most wonderful ideas. But if you don't have any masculine energy to drive that forwards with the structure and the planning and the action, nothing will happen. So we need the two together. And conscious femininity is about having those two together. It's about structure with feeling. And this is important. We're seeing this is so important right now because we have got a world where burnout has been normalized because we're all being asked to just push, 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 don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, because we can't stop because we need to constantly be in action, grabbing, doing, making money. We've got over-functioning being rewarded, and we're allowing and it is often men. I don't want to generalize too much, but in a domestic situation, which is where over and under functioning will really play out at the detriment to women, it will often be a man who's under functioning at home. But an underfunctioner needs an overfunctioner for the pattern to keep going. So, as a woman who's stepping into your conscious femininity, it's about recognizing where you overfunction and stopping. But you can also, with feeling and kindness, communicate to your underfunctioning partner, I am tired of doing things like this, so I will not be doing X, Y, and Z anymore. I'm going to ask you to step up and do that. I'm going to give you the room to do it. And I promise I'm not going to criticize you in the process because I think this is sometimes where we have a bit of a problem. Men are like, well, I don't do it right. You shout at me, you watch me, so I'm just not going to do it at all. So we have to be aware of where we play into over-functioning to our detriment, how we're also playing a part in that, because it takes two to tango. Being sensitive and living from your intuition and actually being in touch with feelings has been pathologized, really. Like you're weak. You can't trust your intuition. You don't know what's best. We've been gaslit into not feeling and intuiting what's happening. And as women, we are brilliant at feeling and intuiting. Brilliant at it. And it's about getting back in touch with that. Rest is earned. We have to earn our rest, don't we? there's always somebody who's bragged about how little sleep they've got and how much they've done and how much they've achieved and their level of success. And there's always a cost to going and going with no gap. There'll be a cost somewhere to it. Nature is being exploited. Our natural world is being smashed and grabbed all the way through. We are, instead of saying, can we build around the beautiful trees we've got, we go, screw it, let's just smash the trees. It doesn't matter. Who cares about the birds that live in the trees? Who cares about the habitat? Who cares about the ecosystems that we're ruining because we just need this piece of land because we've got to put some more office parks up or we've got to put another mall up? Is bullshit, quite frankly. And when we can start listening first to our own nature, and then when we're listening to our own nature, listen to the nature we are a part of, it shifts the whole ethos of being and living in reciprocity and living in harmony with our surroundings, because we can 100% do that. We can 100% do that. And we're ignoring our bodies. We're ignoring what's happening internally. We're ignoring the signals we're getting. You only have to look at, and it fascinates me really when we look at something like mental illness. We only have to look at how readily prescribed things like antidepressants are and anti-anxiety medication. You can go to the doctor and be like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I can't stop crying all the time. And they just go, cool, here's a prescription for some antidepressants. They don't ever say, sometimes they do, but my experience has not been, nobody ever says what's happening for you. How can you slow things up a little bit? Is there something that needs to be sorted in your personal life? Is there a conversation you need to have? It's just we're given the pills to mask the symptoms, and we're never encouraged to look at the root cause and have a dig down and see what really needs healing so we feel better. It's all of this is the work I'm doing. This is all about this work that I'm doing. So conscious femininity brings regulation instead of reactivity. So we're talking about learning to regulate your nervous system, is learning to self-regulate your own behavior, your responses. When we can take a pause, we can listen to what's happening around us, and instead of just jumping straight in, we can go, take a moment to assimilate this and see what the best course of response might be. That pause is conscious femininity right there. It's living from wisdom rather than urgency. It's listening to cycles and allowing ourselves to be in cycles instead of this constant growth all the time. Why do we need to grow all the time? Why do we need to keep expanding all the time? What's wrong with taking a moment of going, here I am. This is fantastic. Can I enjoy the moment of where I am without this grabbing more, 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 more? But that's the patriarchal society we've been conditioned into. There's never enough. We can never have enough. And actually, I think you probably find you can. It is care without self-sacrifice. So we can care for others, but it doesn't have to be at our detriment. Sometimes that means saying no. Sometimes that means asking for help. And I think the thing here with conscious femininity is it's so powerful. It allows for leadership with empathy and intuition and kindness rather than ruling with a firm fist. It's a very, very different way of being. So if we talk a little bit about some ways to help you reconnect with your own conscious femininity, I'm sure this has piqued your interest because it's just something for me when I discovered it and was able to put a name to what I've been doing, I've been able to really streamline and create a lot more and be a lot more intentional with this work. It's easy. It's so doable, and you can get into this right now. So the first thing is to come back into your body in some shape or form on a daily basis. So sit and do some breathing. I teach heart math. There's heart focused breathing. There are a few techniques which just allow you to be present and in your body and listening to what's happening. Walking, just being out and doing some exercise, being outside in nature. Can you connect with some trees, watch the birds, enjoy? Nature is so healing, and it's such an underrated form of therapy, to be quite honest. If you can be out in nature and connecting with the natural world, it brings you more in harmony with your own nature and your own internal natural world. And I think the thing I'll add here as well is it's can you treat your body with kindness? I know I come from a generation where I grew up seeing Kate Moss. I grew up in the UK in the 90s where heroin chic was the thing. It was the thinner you are, the sexier you are. And it's I have been scarred for life by that really. And it's been a philosophy. I've punished myself repeatedly for it. Even I've got a bit older, I've picked up a little bit of weight. I find it very frustrating, and I have to stop myself and actually try to treat myself with some kindness rather than berating myself for the fact that my body's changing because my hormones are changing because I'm in perimenopause. So, can you treat your earthly vehicle, your body, with some kindness and compassion? And have gratitude for what it does give you rather than wanting it to be different all the time. I know that's something I am constantly working on. It's a work in progress for me all the time. The second thing is to learn to listen to your nervous system. Do you know what it feels like to be in a fight response versus a flight response? Can you tell the difference between the two? Are you able to understand what kicks you into a fight or flight response? Can you identify when you are in a freeze response, when you are just sitting and you can't do anything, you can't move, you don't want to do anything, you're very, very stuck? And I think for women as well, we do this often when you're in a fawn response. So if you're a people pleaser, you'll be very familiar with the fawn response of how do I placate and adjust myself so somebody else is comfortable? How do I make myself uncomfortable so somebody else isn't? It's the fundamental of people pleasing and fawning. Can you start to build an awareness of when you're in one of these nervous system states, track back as to what put you there, and then have a look about, is this what I want to be? Can I regulate myself back to neutral here? This is something I teach. So if you'd like to know more about that, do get in touch with me. Can you honor your cycle? So honoring your monthly cycle and honoring how your energy waxes and wanes like the moon waxes and wanes. Your your cycles over the course of a day. Now we're all different. So I know I am super productive early in the morning. The earlier I can start doing tasks that require cognitive load, the better. If you ask me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to try and write a blog post or write captions for things or come up with an idea or be really high functioning, I'm not going to do it because my energy cycle over the course of the day shifts and changes. Other people are entirely different. Some people are late risers and can work through the night and will be most creative at 4 o'clock in the morning. Notice where you sit with that. There's no right or wrong, but you will find you're cyclical. When you can identify where your energy is highest and where it's lowest, you can start to work with that to really harness your productivity, your creativity, and when the best time for you to rest is, which is very important too. Stop overgiving. We are all in reciprocity with each other. And if there are situations where you find yourself overgiving, overfunctioning, can you A, start to notice and B, start to manage your energy in that situation and manage yourself? If you are in a situation where it's always you making the effort, always you giving, try stopping and see what happens. Sometimes when we stop overfunctioning, other people will step up. But when you overfunction, you don't give anybody room to step up. And sometimes when you are in overgiving and you're keeping something going and it's just you driving it, that's not a reciprocal relationship and it's not one you want to be in. But you'll start to see when you notice how much am I giving? Am I overgiving? And this comes to listening to your internal world and your internal signals. Do I know? How does it feel? Am I giving because I want to? Am I giving and sorting this friendship out, this relationship out because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it? But if it's a relationship or a friendship is just based on your energetic output, it's not a relationship that you want to be in. It's not a healthy relationship at all. And the last one is learn to tell the truth gently and clearly without over-explaining or without shrinking yourself. And this starts with, what is your truth? What is it you want? And this is a question that is so important to ask. Is this what I want, where I find myself right now? Do I want to say yes to this thing that I've been asked to do? Am I saying yes because I don't want to disappoint, or am I saying yes because I actually have the bandwidth and the capacity to do it? Start to listen before you are agreeing to things. Listen to, do I have the energy for this? Do I want to do this? And if not, how can I kindly and succinctly say no and put a boundary down? And if it makes somebody else unhappy or uncomfortable, can you let them sit in their own discomfort? And that is it's a huge act of courage to do that if you're not used to doing it. If you're a fixer and a people pleaser and you love to and you not love to fawn, but you find yourself fawning, this is quite a difficult habit to break. You have someone have to sit on your hands a little bit and allow someone else to be uncomfortable. Remember, everybody else's, other people's feelings, unless you've gone out and poked them and said something really horrible to them, other people's feelings are self-generated. They're their feelings to process. So sometimes we just need to learn to let other people be uncomfortable and let them process through their feelings and sit with our own discomfort because someone else is uncomfortable. The more you do it, the easier it gets. This is work I do with clients. This is work I live. This is the way of life that I have stepped into and shifted into. And I can tell you, it's a much better way of being. It's not the easiest way because it does tread on toes and it challenges norms. There will be people who are like, well, who does she think she is? Shouldn't you be cooking for your husband every night? Fuck no, not a chance. But it's about it will ruffle feathers. Change is a challenge. A different way of being is interesting, but it's a much better way of being when you're living for you. Because, and I say this with the greatest of love for the men in the world, most men have been doing this forever, since time began, and women have just slotted in line. How can I support you? How can I look after you? They're not children, they're other adults, and you're an adult, and your needs are just as important, and it's time you started taking them seriously too. Right. This is work I do. It's work I guide women through in my one-on-one coaching. I am a heart math coach, which I've touched on. It's a fantastic set of nervous system regulation tools. So if you want to know more about that, you can get in touch with me. I bring in a shamanic element to the conscious femininity work and to the coaching work that I do. It's a really wonderful way of being able to listen to what's happening internally, but through the lens of metaphor, really. It's about listening to your unconscious, and shamanism is a really great way of being able to tap that. We all cart round old stories and old belief systems that maintain the status quo in our lives. And then there's often a day that comes where you go, what am I doing? How did I get here? I don't want to be here. What the hell? And the work I do is about helping people understand why and how they are where they are, and then start to shift the beliefs, shift the thought patterns, shift the stories, shift the behavior. So it creates what you want, as opposed to perpetuating more of the same. We have this one wild and precious life. Go out, live it. You don't need to be living it for somebody else, or you don't need to be living it out of authority and in integrity and authenticity with yourself. So you can pop me a message to find out more about how my coaching works. There's a link in the show notes to my shamanic healing sessions that I do as well, which are a really great way and a great in for starting to do some of this work. If you are in South Africa and in Johannesburg on the 14th and 15th of March, I am doing an in-person weekend retreat. Windrush Studio in Fourways. It's called Weaving a New Way, and I'm going to be using the 4 directions of the Andean medicine wheel to guide the women who come and join me for the weekend through the process of change. So this is a weekend retreat for women who want to change something in their lives, whether that's changing external things, you want to change a relationship, a job, or internal things. You want to be able to set boundaries more firmly and kindly and uphold them, whether you want to stop overthinking, whether you want to actually just banish the self-doubt that is keeping you stuck. This is a workshop for you. I put a link in the show notes there. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be really transformational. We're using the 4 directions. We're going to shed the old stories. We're going to uncover and rewrite the beliefs you've got. We're going to have a look at what is your soul really calling for? What is it you really want? And we're going to look at how do we shift things and change things and make a plan for you to start moving towards that life that you really want. I am all about integration and all about being able to keep shamanism and the work I do so practical that it applies to everyday life, because that's where we are all of the time. And it brings it back down into this realm and helps you to be able to live better on a day-to-day basis. So I'm really excited for that. Check it out there. You can send me a message on Instagram. It's at Emma O'Brien Coach if you want to find out more about the retreat or working with me. Yeah, or send me a voice note. Let me know what landed from this episode for you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being with me on this journey. I really enjoy having you along here, and thank you for listening. I will see you same time next week. Bye for now.